Hi, everybody. Okay, so this is the last video for blood typing. So I'm going to hopefully bring all of the other videos kind of together, just summarize. So when we look at blood types, right, there are four major types of blood types: A, B, and O. You can also have positive blood and negative blood. Okay, so when you look at why you have the blood type that you have, it has to do with the genes that you get and how those genes make antigens. So antigens are the proteins on the surface of the cells, and A blood would have A antigens, AB blood has A and B antigens. So when we look at this, right? If you have A blood, you have A antigens. B blood has B antigens. AB blood has A and B antigens. And then O blood does not have either A or B antigens. This chart doesn't give you Rh factor, but if you had Rh, so if you were A positive, you would also have Rh antigens. If you're Rh negative, you would not. So when we look at then the idea of an antigen, the antigen is produced in your body and it is on the surface of your red blood cell, and that gives you the blood type that you have. So the blood type you have tells you your antigens. A blood has A antigens, B, AB, A and B, O is none. When you look at why that happens, that has to do with the genetics. So a couple of things that we know that I said in the last video: you get your genes from your parents. You get 2 copies of each gene from your parent. Those copies of your genes are called alleles. They interact together to give you your actual physical characteristics. We know that A alleles and B alleles are considered to be codominant. So if you get one of each, you will show both of them. A allele is dominant to O. The B allele is dominant to O. So A and B are dominant to O, which makes O a recessive trait. You need 2 recessive traits to show or 2 recessive alleles to show the recessive trait. You only need 1 copy of the dominant allele to show the dominant trait. And then having the Rh protein is dominant to not having it, but we are not going to solve genetics problems with the Rh factor. So when we look at phenotype and genotype is your genetic expression, phenotype is your physical expression. So if you have A blood, this is your phenotype, you could either be AA or AO. If you have B blood, you would be BB or BO. AB blood, your genotype would be AB, and O blood, your genotype would be OO. So when we solve genetic problems, you use the genotype to help you to figure out the possible probability of the phenotypes of the offspring using Punnett squares. Now, in terms of how we use blood typing to actually get blood from people, so like donating, that's when it comes to antibodies. So you produce antibodies against any protein that you do not consider to be native. So anything foreign, whether that is pollen or a peanut protein or shellfish or blood typing. So you are going to produce antibodies against the antigens you don't have. So if you have A blood, you only have A antigens, which means you are going to produce antibodies against B blood. So you cannot receive any blood from people who have the B antigen. You can receive blood from people who have the A antigen. The same thing would be then true of B blood. So if you have B blood, that means you have the B antigen. You have antibodies against the A antigen, so you cannot receive blood from anybody who has the A antigen. So that could be A blood or AB blood. But you can receive blood from the B antigen. So you could get blood from somebody who has blood type B. You still cannot get it from AB because a person with AB blood has both A and B antigens. So even if a person with AB blood gave blood to a person with B blood, the person with B blood would still attack this red blood cell because there are A antigens on it. So when we talk about universal donors and universal recipients, the universal recipient would be AB positive because they have no antibodies. The person who is O negative would be the universal donor because it has no antigens.